Are you doing all right today?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Good.
And in fact, I had a couple minutes before we got on here, so I went back and I tagged you in a post that I did 5 months ago. I can't remember what event it was that we were at. The Valley Oaks was there, and I was there as well. I think I was representing Terra Treatment Center with Tina when I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And I remembered that you gave me a hug that day. And so 5 months ago, I made a post because I was out on my morning run and I was thinking about KPIs and stuff like that. And I thought, what would be kind of a fun KPI to measure? How many of our clients give us a hug when we walk in? Like that would be kind of
Yeah.
a relevant and KPI that nobody would, typically other than marketers and salespeople would recognize. I thought about that post and I thought about the way that you engage with people, that you have you strike a strong connection with people that you meet. And I was just kind of curious how COVID has and social distancing has kind of impacted the industry. It's kind of shifted things dramatically, how it's affected our ability to connect.
So we moved everything to teleservices within a week of the state executive orders coming down. And so we moved all of our services to tele like this. And so there are a lot of pros and a lot of cons to that. But the main pro is accessibility has improved because of transportation. Daycare's not really an issue. No shows have decreased for us. And so patient engagement has gone up. Of course, the cons is there are patients who don't have the privilege of this technology. And so, being able to connect with them has been more challenging, such as our homeless population or and some of our severely mentally ill population. So it's just really making sure that they have the resources to make that connection, whether it be by phone or by video.
Yeah. So I also noticed when I went and stalked your LinkedIn profile that your number one skill, do you know what you're most endorsed for?
Oh, no, I do not.
You're most endorsed for public speaking. And
Okay.
I thought, well, I've seen you do that a number of times. That makes sense. You were endorsed for a whole bunch of things, but that one in particular, I think was either one or two. It was up there. And I thought that's interesting. So I wanted to ask you the
Yeah.
importance of knowing your audience when you go in to give a presentation or when you're connecting with somebody. How important is it knowing who you're interacting with?
Well, for me, I think it's crucial to know the importance of who I'm talking with because if my message is not going to pull at their heartstrings or pull, in some cases, at their purse strings or whatever I'm needing to pull for some level of action, especially, in my role to help people with advocacy legislation, if I'm not talking to the audience, then I'm missing the whole boat and it's kind of a waste of time.
And that kind of segues real nicely into the next question of, why when we communicate with somebody in a way that conveys there or elicits emotion, which a lot of times emotion is necessary as a driving force. If we just
Mm-hmm.
information is just boring, it doesn't necessarily lead to the behavior that we're seeking. What's why? And this is another thing I noticed by stalking your profile that you are also following Simon Sinek, and I thought this is also extremely relevant with why would we, if you know your audience and you have a similar why, why would it be important to start with that instead of just all the things that you do?
For me, it's starting with the why is to help understand where everyone is coming from. And so, we as a community mental health center, we have the extreme honor of working with a very diverse staff and also a very diverse patient population mix. And within that, everyone has a different walk, is what I like to call it. And so, asking the why helps me to know that I'm walking beside them versus in front or behind them. And I want to be walking beside my team and I want to be walking beside those that we serve so that we are meeting people where they're at and whatever that walk is and whatever that journey is.
To me, having a shared why and starting with why, it's kind of connected to values. So
Mm-hmm.
I often think about for the clients that we represent and even for ourselves, like our main values are to be curious, creative, resourceful, and brave. And I try to deliver on that every single day. But when we're putting together the voice of our clients, I really do push to understand the values of the company and not just the values that you throw out there. What are you willing to deliver on?
Mm-hmm.
It's not you won't compromise on that value. And I think that when we can get down to that level, it that pairs well with that idea of why, and it has a very clear voice that you would you'd read something and you would say that's Valley Oaks. Like I know that's something that they would do because that's completely in alignment with what they always do. That's how they operate. How much of that do you incorporate into your marketing strategy?
I think we definitely incorporated. I think the agency that we work with has done a great job. But for me, in my role, where I incorporate that first and foremost is with our staff, because if our staff is not walking those values, then we can put a message out there in marketing and not deliver. And so for me, it's really creating a purposeful and mission led staff around those values so that then when people go to get those services, they're seen every time and consistently.
I've also read some of your posts in the past. I've been following you for a while.
Oh man, I gotta watch it now.
Yeah, yeah. I read one and I can't quote it because I haven't seen it in a really long time. I think that it was related to one of the hospitals here in Indianapolis, and you shared a little bit about some doctors that had helped you in the past, and you were expressing gratitude towards these doctors that had helped you. But it was in relation to the burns that you had sustained, and
Mm-hmm.
you were thanking the doctors for the work that they had done, and you know that kind of thing. Well, I think that it's very critically important that we share difficulties that we have and share things like that. But a lot of companies are really afraid of putting anything forward that is not super polished. You know, they don't want to share any struggles. They don't want to share anything like that. And I think that your ability to do that is something that makes you very relatable. What's the role in sharing the struggle or the journey as it pertains to marketing or any company?
My struggle in sharing that I'm a burn survivor is really where I connect the whole power of a peer into mental health and substance use. And so my walk as a burn survivor, if someone came up to me who might have a little burn from a curling iron, to me that might not stick with me, because to me, I am a 60% burn survivor. I've been burned my whole life, since the age of 14 months old. And so that story doesn't really stick. And so what does stick is, I have a lifelong friend. I call her my soul sister, who is also a 60% burn survivor, who was burned in a Jeep accident. And so she, was definitely someone who I relate to, have developed quite a friendship with, because she's really the only one I've ever met who can understand my walk, and her vice versa. And so I think it's important in substance use and mental illness to find people to walk alongside you, like I said, with that why. And that's why I'm a huge fan of the peer programs such as Phoenix Paramedicine, what Jason Paget has done, what other people such as Brandon George and a lot of other key people in our communities have started with this peer piece, because not every peer has the same walk, but if we can have diverse peers to be able to really connect with people, I think that really brings people alongside to treatment and to long term recovery. I think it's very powerful. So I think that's how I use that, if I'm remembering that right, is that connection and giving that voice to peers, because I think that's such a strong service for those who suffer with substance use and mental illness. And then the other part is just the struggle as an agency. We often hear, as a community mental health center, our wait lists can sometimes be long and our accessibility is sometimes hard. Well, that's not from a center perspective that we want to be difficult. Our struggle is workforce. And so, without having licensed clinical social workers and without having licensed clinicians to be able to service that need, it's more of a shortage need. And so where that struggle might seem like it's accessibility, it's really on the workforce issue. And so I really believe that the struggles need to be heard to help with advocacy, to help with legislation, to help with payers, to help with workforce, and being really transparent in what those are so that we can rally together as a community to help in solving them versus just saying, oh, your struggle is access and having that reputation. Well, that's not really our true struggle. Our true struggle is on the workforce side. And we're in a workforce shortage area. The state and really in our country, it's quite an epidemic that we have so much need and not a lot of qualified staff to meet that need. And so that's the struggle I like to be really transparent about.
From the onset of mental illness or addiction, a lot of times it'll take up to a decade before somebody goes in to receive help. So we try to do our part to shorten that duration of suffering to where people feel comfortable reaching out to somebody, to an organization to get help, whether that be sharing our struggle so people know that there are other people out there in a very similar boat that have walked that line. And by the way, that reduces stigma. That's one of the big ways to reduce stigma. I encourage everyone that's strong to, if you're strong enough to tell your story, if you're ready for it, to go ahead and tell it. Marketing can get a bad rap. Sales can get a bad rap. When you talk about stigma, I feel stigma when I tell people that I do sales and marketing for a living.
Yeah.
But it can also be beautiful. It can also create change. It can also shorten the duration of suffering. So I was just kind of curious what marketing means to you and what good marketing can look like.
I started in marketing and I started in business development. And for me, being a good marketer and being a good business development director was really knowing the needs of our clients and knowing the needs of our community so that then we could develop those services to be able to make those personal connections. I also really thought of myself more as an educator and a connector versus a marketer and business development. And so, making sure that I, educate on, 1 in 5 of us suffer from mental illness and the concern regarding substance use disorder and, knowing that it is treatable. I have very personal stories regarding mental health and addiction, and I know treatment works. And I get to see it every day and live it every day through family. And so that's my message is that treatment works. And so if you just make that connection, I think marketing really helps in making, like you said, getting people to pick up that phone or send an email or go on a website to ask for services. And I think connecting where people are at is really crucial.
What's the most significant thing that you've learned as a marketer and as an executive? Something that was just kind of like an epiphany that was sort of like that's what it's all about. If there's a moment like that that exists.
I will never forget. I was transitioning kind of more from the business development to the operations space. And so I was in charge of both business development and our assessment and referral office at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really powerful for me because I got to see the importance of under promising and over delivering. And I got to see the importance of connecting that direct referral and patient to services. And then I got to see after treatment people coming to me and saying, thank you. This agency saved my life. And I am ready to go out and either be in recovery or to, be walking the walk of mental stabilization, and they were no longer feeling suicidal. And I have heard that quite a bit in my career. And so, I really take it to those personal stories and those lives that have been saved, and that treatment works and it saves lives and overdoses can go down. And, every life is precious on this earth. And whatever I can do as a business development person, marketing strategy, operations, all the roles that I've been able to be so blessed with in my career, that like at the end of the day, as long as we're helping people and families and children, adults, whatever that might be, to be able to live their best selves, that's really the awesomeness of our role as marketers or whatever that role might be.
So what do we need now? 2020 is happening.
Um,
Everything is changing. I'm just trying to see what I can't see. What do we need now?
Well, for me, first and foremost, we need advocacy and legislation to help in funding for mental health. We have seen an increase in our crisis calls go up. We've seen an increase in our suicide and mental wellness calls go up. And so before this all happened, we were at capacity, right, with our workforce and with what's needed. And so now more than ever, we need to be legislating for the right funding, and that, while cuts need to happen and budget things need to take place, that mental health cannot be one of them. So we need to be advocating for that, as well as the telecomponent. So the state did a phenomenal job. I was in awe of how our state Medicaid department and governor responded, and we were able to provide teleservices within that week to the majority of our clients. We need to keep that, and we need to be able to offer that as a service that works for our patient population. So we need to be advocating with our legislators to get rid of the origination and site of service fee, so that we can continue doing this. So what now is a lot, to be able to provide those services, and then through our marketing be able to educate what those services are, what that looks like, and be able to connect with people, because now to get people re-engaged and get people pulled into treatment is going to be even more challenging.